In this video, I want to go over how you can use a free stock screener 100% online where you're able to find companies or stocks that you might be interested in and filtering out from market cap to company size to company revenue to the number of shares that are sold short. Lots of different variables can be included in the stock screener, and it is 100% free for you to use. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the process. If you are a do-it-yourself investor or a DIY investor, then this video is for you because I'm going to go over a free stock screener tool that you can use to basically search for company names or fund names that could be of interest for you to invest in. The first thing that you actually want to do is you want to go to finviz.com. And when you're on finviz.com, you want to go to the stock screener option here in this tab. Now, it really depends on what type of funds or what type of equities you want to invest in, because let's say if you're only a purely based fund investor and you want to invest in, let's say, equity funds or exchange traded funds or debt funds, or a combination of both, then you can go to industry here and you can basically select exchange traded fund, which are basically funds that are passively managed by a fund management company. Or you can go into more mutual funds or more actively managed funds, which are usually known as the closed-end funds. And you can look at closed-end funds of equity, closed-end funds of debt, or foreign closed-end funds also. But let's say you want to just look at individual company names. What you can actually do is you can, let's say, screen for market cap. So that is how big the company actually is. So let's say if you're only looking for mid-sized companies between the 2 billion and 10 billion market cap size, you can click on this. And then let's say you also want to have them earn a positive return on equity. Then you can click on this selection here. And let's say it's over 10% positive ROE or return on equity. Then it brings this to a total of 490 names. Now, this is now 25 basically pages long. So there's a lot of different companies in here. There's 490 in total. So what we can do to help us narrow the focus is we can actually filter based on industry, because as we know, and as we are investors, we have to stick within our circle of competence, as what Warren Buffett has said. So there are certain industries that potentially you understand more than others. So you might understand this because you are in the industry as part of your job. Maybe you deal with these companies on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. Maybe you're familiar with a brand name. It's really up to you. For example, I'm just familiar with bigger company names like McDonald's, like Tesla, like Starbucks, anything that basically is a giant large cap company like Disney or potentially the cigarette brands. All of those things that basically have big brand power and potentially a competitive advantage because they have a long operating history. I like to stick to those type of companies, as well as some real estate investment trusts as well, especially now because the yield environment is still relatively high and REITs are relatively low in terms of the relative valuation. So I stick to those types of names. But you might be into, let's say, biotechnology. You might be into oil and gas. And so really depending on your strengths and weaknesses and what you think you understand, I highly suggest you start filtering for industry here so that you can basically skip this process. So for example, if you don't want to do any aerospace and defense, apparel, any of these things, airports, air services, or any asset management finance companies, then you can skip them too. Even regional banks, we can skip them as well. So in my case, I would be skipping them, including building products and equipment. I would skip them. But potentially Fizz, I've seen that name around before, could be something I might be interested in as part of the beverages section. Let's see here, 7. So I might look at capital markets, not that interested. Maybe Interactive Brokers because it's a big name and I use it, so I kind of understand their business model. Let's see else here. Any of these commodity-based things I really don't understand, so I tend to stay away from them. Let's see here. Discount stores, yeah, I'm familiar with Ollie's Bargain and BJ's Wholesale. Let's see here. Western Union, yeah. I'm not too fond of credit services though. They're very volatile and very cyclical in nature. Highly depend on interest rates and depends on actually where they're doing their credit services. Because if it's in the US, it's more stable. If it's another country, very, very unsustainable business. Let's see here. I tend to stay away from these things too. Electrical equipment, any of these things that are really very complicated to understand. Yep. Farm, no, I'm not really interested in that. Engineering, construction, have no idea how to value those things. Personal beauty, no, not so much. In even distribution, insurance, I tend to stay far away from. So it really depends on what you're interested in. I tend to stay away from any of these complicated industries. Okay. Medical care as well, something I really don't understand. Oil and gas, definitely I stay away from. Maybe you might understand it, I surely don't. Let's see here. No, none of these things. See, packaging containers, like they don't have a very strong moat either unless they have mass scale and distribution. Very, very difficult to compete because there's not a lot of pricing power. So I like industries where there is pricing power and there's definitely a clear competitive advantage or a branding moat around their business. So nothing really here. What you can also do is filter for the market cap, let's say from this top area here, and see. I know we're only doing mid, but maybe there's some familiar names here that we all recognize. Interactive Brokers is definitely a name that most of us probably would recognize if we are in the financial realm. That's one company I would say that is of interest. Ralph Lauren, but apparel manufacturing is very difficult and the trends come and go. BJ's Wholesale, yeah, I would probably look at the wholesale, and I'll probably look at Interactive Brokers as something of interest in the mid-market segment. Curtis Wright as well, I would probably take a look at because they're in aerospace and defense. It is a complicated industry, but I do have some familiarity with this industry, and it's just something probably I would look at in more detail. Let's see what else we got here. This is a relatively declining industry. I mean, New York Times is not the greatest in terms of publishing, I would say, in terms of so much competition for eyeballs in media these days. The margins are definitely being pressed. I would look at maybe something like SST. I've seen them around a few times, lumber and wood production. But then again, it's in an industry that is quite hard and competitive. Quite a lot of different things in the mid-market segment, but I would say definitely not as familiar names as many people would think. So that's probably one way I would start, guys. I would look at potentially what you would want to invest in. Are you looking at funds? Are you looking at exchange traded funds or closed-end funds? Are you looking at single name equities? Are you looking in the US? Because Finviz is specifically for the US market. I know there's other tools available out there. For example, you can go to Koifin. And so on Koifin, this is different from Finviz.com, but Koifin, you do have to pay a premium subscription to access their security search and screeners in the best way possible. The beauty of Koifin versus Finviz is like Koifin is international. So they have lots of different types of funds and equities that are listed in the UK, Australia, Hong Kong, China, you name it. And so there's a lot more opportunity to find potential gems or potential investments that might be of interest to you. But as a starting point, play around with Finviz first, get the knack of how to do things and filter, and then you can go from there. Then you can play around with Koifin, and also, let's say you have made a short list, I highly suggest you also subscribe to Seeking Alpha. So this is my Seeking Alpha account, and if you found companies of a short list, let's say you found there was a company there called IBKR, so Interactive Brokers, right? And so if you have a paid Seeking Alpha account, you can basically read different analysis of what professional investors and also DIY investors are saying when it comes to this particular company. There's also closed-end funds. So for example, if there's a closed-end fund or an ETF that tracks a market index, like let's say SPY, for example, the ETF trust that tracks the S&P 500 index, then you can also read different analysis of what people are saying about SPY and the potential trajectory going forward. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content. I'm here to give you the best DIY investing advice. Someone who's been interested in finance since I was 14 years old. I really love teaching about investing, stock markets, etc. Please stay tuned for more videos to come. Talk to you later. Sam.